Yes, hello and good afternoon out there. Welcome to a webinar at Novicell. Today we'll start in about 1 minute so that I'm sure everyone has had the chance to be loaded in from the waiting room. And before I will introduce the two presenters of today, I'll just give a short introduction to the platform and of course also to today's topic. So I'll just check a little bit if people have started to arrive. Good morning. My name is Mette Poulsen. I will host this webinar today, but the key persons are of course the ones you see next to me. Adam Peter Nielsen, who is our CTO from Novicell, and Minho Ward, who is our head of business analysis. And today they will talk about new e-commerce opportunities in the manufacturing industry. And they will spend 45 minutes on this topic and hopefully take you through all the important stuff about this topic. A little bit about the platform before we start out. On your right hand side you have a chat or a comment field, and of course it would be extremely nice if you would engage and post questions you have for Adam and Minho. I will try to catch up on the questions and interrupt them in an appropriate time during the presentation. Otherwise, we'll just catch up on the questions at the end of the webinar. You also have a functionality in your upper right corner called questions. You're also welcome to post your questions here, although they will not be visible to the complete audience, but only to me. But I will, of course, also catch up on the questions posted here. So feel free to use either of the ways to post questions. The webinar will be recorded and you will receive the recording tomorrow together with the presentation of today. So you don't have to take a lot of notes. You can review the webinar tomorrow or dig into the presentation. Yeah, I think that's it. Minho, Adam, please take it away. You have 45 minutes. Yeah, we look forward.
Thank you so much, Mette. So welcome to this webinar about the manufacturing industry and how to utilize digital for commercial growth in manufacturing. The focus for today is to give you insights on how the market has changed in the past years, and also how technology support these market changes enables new possibilities, new options, and how manufacturing companies can become more responsive to changes in the industry. I know Mette already introduced us, but my name is Minho. I work in our digital advisory department here in Novicell, and I primarily focus on the manufacturing industry in my daily work.
And as Mette mentioned, I'm CTO at Novicell. Today I'll hopefully take some of the very insightful information Minho has for us today and put it into a broader perspective. But initially about Novicell, for those that do not know us, and we are sure that's very few, we help leading brands grow their customer engagement online and through other digital channels. We're advisors and assist in designing digital business models, specifically for commerce and trade in general, but also for manufacturing a whole lot the past 5 years. That has grown a lot for us. We assist in designing the business models, but also how touchpoints in digital can be used. Other than that, managing digital channels, we also have a range of different system integrations that we do for a lot of these underlying pieces of tech that needs to support this. So let's get into some numbers first, Minho, to set this into a broader perspective. take it away.
Thank you. So the first part here is about the key tech trends, not tech trends, market trends that we see. So first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of e-commerce, because historically e-commerce has been evolved primarily from the B2C and now up to manufacturing. And the reason why that is because of the complexity of product and the complexity of pricing, meaning that in the beginning it was fairly easy, or it was easier to actually put the B2C market online. And this is because products are fairly simple and pricing is also simple. And the next part, as e-commerce evolved, was the B2B wholesale, because they might have more complex pricing models, more complex products than the classic B2C, but it's still becoming more simple because e-commerce evolved and the technology has evolved a lot. But now it's coming to the manufacturing industry, and we actually see that this evolution will go way faster than the B2C and the wholesale B2B evolution. And the reason why that is because people who are actually buying products or machines or something like that from manufacturing companies, they expect the same experience as they get in their off-work life. So meaning they use Zalando, they use Amazon, they use PriceRunner. So they use services that offers a very good customer experience. So they will expect that already. Also, and traditionally in this industry, the companies have been digitalizing the bottom up, meaning they figure to digitalize, vendor reporting, all these things, like how do we buy spare parts and so on.
Yeah, manufacturing and the whole process of building goods and manufacturing and configuring your factories and your whole product line. There is a lot of digital in there. So that is more digitalization from the bottom up. So for a lot of the manufacturing industry companies, we see that they're much more ready than they actually think they are, because they are digital natives in their manufacturing. This just now needs to meet the market, meet the different digital channels. So that's why it's going so fast in many cases, as you may have some numbers on.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that when we're talking about buyers in the industry, so the ones who are actually going to buy your products and evaluate your products, they actually expect that in the sales funnel, a lot of the interaction will happen remotely or in the digital self-service. So before ordering, so when they're searching for information, but also after they have actually bought your products, so buying components, buying spare parts, the customer portal part, all of this they expect they can do it themselves and do it remotely. And furthermore, they also see that the sales funnel are becoming more and more digitally, meaning that a lot of the touch points that you normally use a physical sales guy for, you actually use digital channels instead. And this is also why Gartner, they forecast that 80% of all interaction between a buyer and a seller will happen on digital channels by 2025.
I think an important takeaway from this is that the traditional B2B sales or manufacturing sales or the processes is very much one-to-one matchmaking. It means getting in touch with the procurement department and the right person and the engineer that validates, okay, these are the products or the configurations we need, or the purchasing department that really says, okay, I need a bulk of this, 50 containers in my direction, please. These people will usually, or until COVID, would be visited physically on an annual basis or monthly or whatever you roll. But now a lot of this is happening online. So the one-to-one matchmaking, as we'll get back to, is crucial now to have that digitalized.
Yeah. And about the one-to-one matchmaking and digitalization, it's the crucial part of this is the channels. So what channels are effective to offer, and what do you actually need to offer? So the development in this, or the evolution of this, has changed rapidly based on the COVID, because as we can see on the left graph, it shows that before COVID, the in-person channel was offered by like a lot of manufacturing companies, and it was the primary channel. But after COVID, because you couldn't meet in physical, it has become the e-commerce channel that have passed the in-person or the physical channel. And it also shows that the most effective one is also the e-commerce. And this also makes great sense, meaning on that classically you needed to call a sales guy to buy spare parts but now you have put it.
Some still do.
Some still do, yeah, exactly. But you have put it online. You have made it digital and self-service. You have increased the self-service possibilities for your customers.
I think all of this boils down to ease of doing business, basically.
Exactly.
So if you can get it when you want and not through an extra part of the equation, the sales guy, and just get that extra knowledge and consulting afterwards, that's where everything is moving.
Yeah, exactly. And the big question is, so where do we actually meet the customers? Like in which channels?
What channels?
Do
you have something on that?
I do actually have
That's
something
good.
on that. So back in time, it was like 2016, the 5 channels that was offered in the decision journey. It was around 5 channels, yeah. And now that has changed again. So it has doubled up. So last year it was about 10 channels that you needed to be where you needed to be for your potential buyers in the decision journey. It also illustrates very well that you need to be on these channels because it's touch points where you actually are able to meet your customers. Again, back to the sales funnel part and the matchmaking that we will get back to later. But it's crucial to be aware of that you need to be on more channels so they are aware of your company and aware of your product.
I also think some of these is the last nail in the coffin for sales channel conflict, because they support each other. And as long as you have the right channels and you understand how to use them for the right purposes at the right time in the customer journey, that's what it's all about. And being able to move fast and change your direction and say, okay, this used to be email, but now it's actually our clients or customers logging in and buying our spare parts that way instead.
Yeah, exactly. And it also shows that the more channels you actually offer, the higher is the probability of you actually gaining market share over your competitors.
Yes.
And that is also very important, but it also makes great sense. Like if the customer meets you in more channels than they meet your competitor.
I usually frame it like this. If you're in any given context where you're susceptible to marketing or sales or buying something, there should be a buy button. So you can think of it as contextual buy buttons. So if you're engaged in some kind of customer relationship, they should be able to buy your goods or your services or your advice or whatever. So we should have a buy button in the right corner of this presentation, which we don't, which is quite sad. But that's the whole point. To mindset wise, think, okay, can I actually get what I'm seeing now? Because most people actually want to do that. Yeah, that's also why video conferencing and video chat and video sales and all that stuff is going very good, very well in B2C. Yep.
Yeah, and when we talk about all these channels, the purpose of the channels is to actually get them to enter the sales funnel.
Yes, of course.
And when we're talking about a sales funnel, we can also see that before entering the sales funnel, they do a lot of research themselves.
Yes.
Historically, they have just called the company saying like, okay, I need a good price on this machine. I know you have this machine, this product. Give me a good price. But now they use a lot of time themselves on actually investigating and researching products, vendors, things like that, to ensure that they don't waste time because time is money for a lot of companies. So it's important to note that they will start later in the sales funnel than traditionally.
Yes. So if above 60% of the buyer's journey happens before initial contact, before one-to-one matchmaking, you really need to make sure you are on the right channels and your representation of your company and your services and your goods actually is the right one in channels where your target audience is researching, which is mostly online.
Yeah, exactly. And as we have written, 60% of the majority of the B2B is already the majority of B2B customers are already 60% down the sales funnel before they made the first contact to a sales representative. And if we look at what critical factors for selecting a new B2B partner, so when they actually need to find one, it's not a surprise probably, but they use a search engine like Google and also recommendations. So it's again about the mix of channels.
Yes.
But what is important when selecting a supplier, it's primarily three three parameters. That is the most important part: price, delivery speed, and delivery options.
Yes. And what we can learn from this is that yes, price is important. So it makes sense to maybe, if you show prices, show the cheap variety first, because then you get into a dialogue, and making sure that your assortment and your pricing is right, and you also know what channels you actually have prices on. So if you have a wholesale or partner network, that pricing is something you have built into your contracts, so you're sure that you're not underbidding yourself or overbidding, even as happens in many cases. So this is the big five slides, all of the reports that a lot of you also consume. So of course we're really interested in what numbers, what insights drive your decision-making process. We use, this is a fraction of the insight that we gather and use on a daily basis. So there's of course more. But it would be fun to talk about what this actually means for tech, and what it means to support a lot of this. So traditionally, when we've said, okay, we want to do a digital business model, and we want to design something or change something that already is in place for trade or digital, we usually look into that business model, or you look into that business model, look at how can we enrich the customer experience, what do we want to do to add more contextual buy buttons, what solutions and platforms are needed, and then what processes and data do we need to enrich or change or create. The thing about this is that it usually takes quite a while if you do it in a linear development cycle. So we simply miss out, and the cost of delay is oftentimes too high. We want to go to market fast. So what's happening in many cases is that we see a very big shift towards actually working more real time with everything, because we want to be able to create new business models or design new business models, change customer experience, change solutions, and switch out platforms, and modify data and processes while we're running. So everything is moving more towards something that's agile, and that puts a strain on the traditional way of buying tech and buying solutions for something like this, for managing multiple channels. So what we've done is created our technology model, which addresses this. It says the key is to figure out what you want to achieve, and in selecting tech and selecting selecting the right technology pieces for this, we opt for platforms first, because if we can find something out there that actually works, that's operated in cloud, where we can change our business model a little bit to fit what the technology provides for us, that means let the technology drive business development, then we're very fast to market, and it's very low risk because it's something that's out there. If that doesn't work, we go for standards or stacks or something that we can implement and adopt, and let standards and what we can take off the shelf and modify, let that drive our business development and our tech implementation. That's medium risk, also very fast. But then there are some very special cases. That's where we want to differentiate us. That's where we are truly unique. And that's where we want to be very special and let our business model, our operating model, or our approach, our pricing engine, or whatever it is, be very special and build that so no one else has it. Then it's okay to be custom or build something bespoke for the British that are attending. Then that's the differentiator. But of course, it's more risky because it's never been seen before. It's unique. You need more testing. So that means it should be a business differentiator. It should enable you to do something new, something that has never been seen before. Addressing other patterns for the selecting tech, it's also important to look into what architectures are underlying this. But first, what's important for this is to look into what happens when you grow, because initially you'll buy a smaller platform, get that implemented, get something that just serves one channel. What typically happens then is you modify a bit. If you remember the colors, the green is all the special stuff. But as you consolidate and as you add more channels, you need more super information highways that flow between the channels, and you need to be able to switch your different platforms more efficiently. And that can be selecting different types of platforms. You can select a suite that provides a lot of features that will cover most of your business cases and most of your requirements, or you can find best of breed and combine different systems into the solution you're designing, and you can of course hand build everything. Then it should be very special, because why would you if you can buy it off the shelf or buy components? So there are different architectural patterns that we go for when we implement that like this, and when we go for especially manufacturing solutions where there is a lot of complexity, because selecting one big platform that fits everything is not really the way to go, in our humble opinion, at least. So we use these 3 architectural patterns to look for. We want something that's composable. We want something where we can change components over time. So if we at some point find a price calculator engine that we can use instead of the custom one we had to build last year because there was nothing out there, then we can take that component out and put something in, manage that legacy in a responsible way without affecting the rest of the system landscape. We also look a lot at the pace of tech development, because all the systems that are facing your customers, that are handling all of those processes, all the innovation that you want to put to market, you oftentimes have to change that every second year, because there's a new dynamic, there is a new market, there's a new industry, or you were bought or you were sold. So you need to change that a lot. Then there's a lot of supporting systems that differentiate you. That's where you manage all your go-to-market initiatives, and where you manage all your content for the different channels, where you could say orchestrate all that. And then there's of course your systems of record, your ERPs, your PLMs, your RT data hubs, whatever is in there that is with you for the duration. So these systems have different life cycles, and that's why we typically want to combine these these 2 different architectures with also a modern way of implementing, using microservices API first, something that lives in the cloud, so your own IT department doesn't have to be better than Microsoft in order to run everything, and something that is headless. That means that you can decouple the interface your users have and whatever business logic is lying underneath. So if we combine all of these and we look at some of the more or less standard acronyms that are in the space, we would see that some of the platforms live for quite a while. Those are the ERPs, the PLM systems, the PIM systems, all that down in the lower tier of the landscape. And then we have the supporting systems of differentiation that handle customer data analytics, commerce, content, your search and filtering and configuration data. And then, of course, you have all your different channels that you're in control of. There are also others, usually. But what we should look at here is that these are separated. There is a separation of concerns between these layers, so they are not interconnected between each other, and that means it's easier to change out. So that's from a tech perspective what we're looking for and how we're designing these solutions. And this means that in our mind, looking at tech, you need to prioritize architecture before platforms, because you will be adding more different pieces of technology onto your system landscape, and you will most likely be adding a whole lot of new ones that you didn't know about before, because you're adding more channels and because you need to manage those, and they need to be competitive, and you need to have more features all the time in these channels. So having a good separation of concerns makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Agreed.
This is all basically a recipe for setting yourself up for success and being more responsive to change. So maybe you could take us more into what that actually entails in this industry, and what things to look for, what dynamics are in there.
Yeah. So what Adam just talked about was a lot about, the flexibility and agility in building the right architecture. So one of the things for actually being responsiveness for change business-wise is to understand, how are we selling and what are we selling? So meaning what kind of products are we selling? Is it standard spare parts? Through what channels? This is the how are we selling? And then also, are we selling customized products?
Yes.
Again, how do we sell these? So if we look at the possibilities that have opened up by these tech trends or the tech evolving, then it has given a lot of opportunities for this industry. So, for instance, if we look at the direct sales, how do we sell direct to our end users or our end businesses? Let's just put it like that. Then it might be that we have a shop, a classic shop or self-service portal, something like that, where they can buy spare parts, standard products. Then we might have some pre-configured solutions, which you can configure a bit, but you can still buy them online because they're not that complex. Then we might sell through distributors or agents in various countries where they utilize some of the digital offerings that we as a company have, meaning that we can offer a configurator that can help them actually sell products, our products. They are our partner, our agent, but the configuration part is something that we can offer them as a platform, and as well as marketplaces where we can integrate our product information. Also back to Adam's explanation of the architecture, where we have the product data, we know where it is, we know how to structure it in a way so we can just open up for a vertical marketplace.
Yes.
So this is really enabled by tech, but also something that's required by the market, and it's something that we call hybrid selling. So how are we selling in different channels to who?
Basically, we don't really care where you buy as long as you're able.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's the core thing of it.
Exactly. That's a very valid point. But to be able to actually get them to buy something, you might need to get them into the funnel again. Yeah. So this is really much supported by having a strong digital marketing strategy, and it's also executing this strategy, and understanding your customers, actually understanding like what part of our business are actually buying complex products, for instance. But the overall starting point of this is actually bigger. Yeah. Let's just say it's by defining, what is the flat height.
And what are you trying to achieve? Are you in a state where you are creating digitalization, where you are taking existing tech or existing processes or existing markets or existing ways of doing business and just doing them digitally? Or are you actually adding new channels or adding new ways of engaging with your customers and doing what we could call digital transformation, which is one of the things that's on everyone's mind, but it's quite important to understand, are we trying to do something new or are we just trying to improve? That's quite important to know, because there's a lot of friction and a lot of risk in doing new things versus just improving what you have. So that's why we spend a lot of time, or at least some time, on making sure that we are aligned on what we're doing here.
Yeah, and also to add something to that, a starting point for us is actually utilizing this digital framework, because one of the major things when actually doing something new and having a new opportunity is understanding, what is our value proposition. Yes. The thing we just talked about, what are we offering, how are we selling, and what are we selling? Yeah. And then understanding where do we meet our customers, like in what channels, back to you need to be in many channels to gain market share. Do we have the operating model, the operations to actually support our new way of doing business, our new business model? And in the end, the tech part, do we have an agile, flexible architecture to being able to support our new operations and our new business model?
Yeah, what usually happens if we're successful is that someone thinks we're attractive, so they want to buy us. So knowing how to combine architectures, how to combine businesses from a technical level by having a flexible architecture is actually becoming quite of a game changer to a lot of companies, either if they're merging or being acquired. So that is that's something that is being looked at a lot. Is the architecture right? Is it right for horizontal scaling, you could say? Now, the technology in the bottom is a very small drawing right now, but if we were to combine three of those into one, if you have more or less the right agile and good architecture set up that are responsive to change, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes sense, and also that you need to have like a technology stack, but also operations that support your future plans of scaling your business, like scaling globally.
Yeah.
So if we look at like what channel mix do we actually need to be able to scale the business?
Yeah.
And it's different, and that's also why we call it a channel mix, because in some markets, for instance, if you say UK, maybe Germany, it might be partner sales. It might be that we sell through our partners still because they're valuable and they know our products better than if we opened a direct sales channel. But maybe if we look at Brazil, something like that could be a new market for us. Then we could open up a direct sales model instead of finding new partners, because there's a lot of work in that as well.
Yeah.
So it enables you to actually do like a business strategy for scaling your business globally and opening up in new markets.
Now this sounds very big. It could also just be for new business lines or new customer segments. It doesn't necessarily have to be global or pan-European expansion into the big universe of selling online. But the whole point here is the responsiveness to change, and then understanding the different channels are utilized different on different markets and for different purposes. So if you're selling very much knowledge-based sales and configuration and complex products, of course, you need to focus very much on matching the buyer and the seller. And in this case, the seller is typically someone who is quite knowledgeable about the product domain. So you want to connect those versus, is it simple nuts and bolts? Well, then it's wholesale. It's just right quality, right price, right delivery time, get it moving. So there are different strategies that one need to take into account.
And of course it can be more regional, but it sounds better globally.
That's fine.
But
go global.
but if you still look at, you can have the best offering for your customers. You can have like the best products, but if you don't manage to get them into the sales funnel, then you will not succeed. So you can do the best strategy. How do we want to sell our products and so on? But you need to focus on the sales funnel. So this is just an example here, but these are some of the key phases that you actually need to consider that your customers will enter. And this also support very much the research made about channels and what channels are effective and so on, because first of all, you need to make them aware of you, and then you need to make them actually search and choose you as a possible vendor for what they are looking for. So they actually are evaluating you instead of just saying, okay, they can't be used. This is not for us. But the crucial part of this, and what Adam is going to enlighten us a bit more about, is about the matchmaking phase.
I don't know how enlightening it will be, but let's try. So the whole thing here that we talked about initially is one-to-one matchmaking, because yes, we have a funnel, we have a big reach, we have awareness, as Minho was just going on about. But what it really is about is having digital lead generation and onboarding. So whenever we start engaging with our clients, we know that what digital can offer us is that we can actually have some real-time data and insights, and that we can make that matchmaking online. So if our prospects, if our potential clients are engaging with us, they have a lot of different lead generation sources. It could be emails, it could be meetings, it could be events, trade shows, web searches, and whatnot. But the whole crucial point here is that if we digitalize that next step, if we connect your sales resource, that could be the specialist or just a generic nuts and bolts salesman. I'm not saying he's worse than the other one, but he's most times easier to digitalize. Connect that with your prospect and get some good matchmaking going on. What we really need is to show the client who it is and how they can get in touch, because the next phase is, of course, to be able to do a good quoting process online, is to say, okay, now they met. Now there's a match. There are hearts and everything is good. So if we have our digital lead generation, as you see to the left, and our digital onboarding, and then we digitalize our quotes. And the good thing about digitalizing our quotes is that they are digital. So we actually can measure and can get insights on what our prospects are doing. And we can know what's happening with this quote. So as you can see, the triggers and insights that are there is what clicks are there, what did they filter for, what did they search for? Did they try to find a cheaper product on your website or on your commerce engine, or did they configure the product in your configurator in another fashion? But in this case, it's a quote. When did they look at it? Have they looked at it? Do you get that insight, and are you able to get in touch immediately afterwards? The next step of that is, of course, to go for more digitalization and go for the whole customer relationship, to be able to digitalize that once you have them, to be able to surface data and to be able to serve customers via commerce and customer portals where they can self-service. But again, have that contact readily available. So it's very important to be able to say, okay, if Anna and John want to engage in something and they want to discuss something, it should be easy. It should be easy to find out who's your account manager or your sales rep or whatever it's called, and how you can get access to the services that are important. That could be anything from data, it could be your configurators, it could be your shopping for spare parts, or just get status on orders. So again, the key insight here is that we get data and we know and share that both ways. So our client knows, okay, the nuts and bolts are on their way, and the big installation we have configured, here are the status and the papers on this. So this is very simple, gray boxed, but that's more or less to just give you an inkling of what's a concept. Yes, we could have shown cases instead, but then it gets quite opinionated. So this is a more high level on what's important here. And the important thing is to get that matchmaking up and going, get insights, and make sure that it is easy and convenient to do business together. Yes. So what this entails is to
design the right digital roadmap.
Of course.
Yes. So by designing a roadmap, we actually mean that having a plan.
Yeah.
It's because roadmap, the word roadmap can be different things, but this is about planning.
Yeah.
Because what we usually say is like a lot of a successful project is the planning part. Like to being success is the planning.
Yeah.
And as we see it right now, the overall concept is that we have put a lot of balls in the air, if that's even a word in English. But how to choose and in what priority should we actually do it, and where to start?
Yeah. So no matter what the initiative is, it could be CPQ configurator, it could be basket sharing, it could be predictive maintenance, or it could just be your commerce for spare parts or something other that is more mundane. But the whole thing is, how do we prioritize? How do we look at this? So we usually have this for a fly-in prioritization framework, because most people look at in the top left corner, is this a big opportunity to do this new digital thing? Will I reduce some risk? Will this generate business value for me? Can I create that wonderful, much better customer experience? In most cases, it's quite easy to get those done and get the business case through. But where it really oftentimes fail and where we neglect to focus is, what skills and bandwidth does it require to do this new thing? Is there some training that actually needs to be done internally in order to operate this new configurator? What dependencies do we have in order to make it work? Do we actually have a pricing engine that can deliver prices to our new e-commerce setup that are customer specific and regional and currency and all that, if we want that? And what legacy systems and processes and ways of doing business do we need to take into account, or do we just do something new? And the two other ones is platform lifecycle. So how long will the platform we have live? There's always a life cycle in there, because something new pops up or the old one needs replacement. And the biggest one is probably cost of delay in planning for roadmaps. So if we know that the case is good, if we know that we'll get more success with sales if we add this initiative, then the faster we can get it to market, the faster we'll stop making more money or meeting that requirement or meeting that business case. So that's really crucial to take these into account. These are at least what we take into account. But the whole point is here that we want to ensure that we do the right things right when we plan. So if we were to look at what are the components in digital roadmap planning, and which is what we're going to end this session with, it's of course understanding your digital business model. What is it you're trying to achieve? Is it transforming something or just improving? Are you making digitalization or digital transformation? And then, of course, what channels and what approach do you have to your channels is the best fit for what you're trying to achieve? Of course, a priority, as we just talked about, and then designing the right process in order to get all of these dependencies uncovered. And that should enable us to quite quickly get into that.
Yes. So the sum of this webinar is so what is the key takeaways? It is that based on the rapidly changing market in this industry, it's important to be responsive for change. How do we actually do that? Well, with the right technology, so we can support the right operating model. We know where to meet our customers, and we have the right business model. And in the end, of course, make the right plan. That is kind of the key takeaways for today. And as Adam said, this is very high level, but still, it's the most important factors in actually evolving your manufacturing company in the e-commerce.
Yeah. Should we just call it commerce? Because
let's do that.
Let's remove the E. Everything is electronic, and that's the E. But that's what we have for you guys out there today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope there are a couple of questions, or maybe Mette can ask us questions. She's good at that. We do have attached a QR code for our architecture of the future, which describes some of the architectural patterns, and otherwise, of course, you'll get the slides afterwards, which is more specific for manufacturing and industrial commerce, as we sometimes call it.
Yes.
Thank you, Minho and Adam. That was a lot of content.
Oh, yes.
So once again, I will encourage the audience to post questions in the chat field or in the question box in the upper right-hand corner. Of course, you're also welcome afterwards to reach out for Minho and Adam. You will, of course, receive their contact data. But let me start out. So how to know which steps to digitalize? Adam, so when will I know if I should just digitalize my awareness step or engagement step, or I should start selling or actually start doing after sales digital, or what is the right process to find out?
Let's find the channel one. There we go. You were talking about these. So it depends on where it hurts. So where do you think you're losing business and missing opportunity? So if you know that 80% of the quotes you do that they're never followed up on, and you don't know what happens to those, I would most definitely focus on the latter part of the funnel. If there is a big opportunity for creating more awareness in a new market where you want to go, I would focus there. So it depends on what is the potential, and there are different mechanics in there to figure out what the potential is. So for instance, for search, it's quite easy to do search phrase analysis, and it's quite easy to monitor competitors' presence online. We do a lot of that to just say, okay, where should we focus? Is there a potential market in here? You can always look at competition, but how do you look at it from a digital perspective? Are they visible online in this region or in this language? If not, it's actually much easier, because we know globally it's plus 60% that does their homework before they get in touch. So if there is no one that is providing that is scratching that, giving them a scratch for that itch, or what, how do you say that? I don't know. That's providing content and products that they can find online. I would jump on that, of course.
Yeah. Thanks. And we have a participant asking, could you share some of your cases, best practices, who came from a poor digital level? So you're working with a lot of different companies. So if you just pick one, because that's maybe what times allow right now.
The thing is, with cases, we need to ask our clients first on cases. So of course we can look at some from our website. I would say those that come from a very poor digital setup. So if you're very, very non-digital, it oftentimes makes sense to bypass everything, because if your digital landscape is not mature underneath, if you do not have a modern architecture, or just something that is relatively modern, if you don't have that that data economy running, you should digitalize in the channel first, and then handle all the other processes manually, because then you can have a very fast time to market. And in some of these cases, we do a new channel in a couple of months and get that out and running, but behind the scenes, everything is done manually. But that's fine, because you already have the people in place and they know how to do people manually. So you've created a nice new digital experience for your customers that they enjoy. But actually getting status is on an order is maybe not done automatically through this wonderful architecture. It's just some guy named John that presses a button and says, now the order is ready, which is totally fine. And the way your warehouse management goes for your spare parts, that could be just people running around picking everything up based off of a slip that comes out of printer. And once they're done, they have to phone someone that clicks a button. That's totally fine, because those processes are already in place today. So we have a number of cases where we actually do not digitalize what lies underneath or is within the organization, because there is in some cases even more risk by doing that, because the systems that are in place are maybe not totally lean and efficient, but they work, and the guys that do it doesn't cost a ton, and you can easily get more. Why not just digitalize what's customer facing? So I would say some of the most successful cases are actually those where we do very little, where we start with where's the biggest potential. And that goes back to the whole roadmap thing, and say, okay, how do we prioritize based on the business case, or based on what makes most sense, and where it does not affect our legacy too much, but also where we use that as our main business differentiator, is that we may have a very good supply chain setup, but the way we actually handle that is super manually. Why not just continue if it works and it doesn't cost a shit ton? Sorry for saying that a lot.
Thank you, guys. I think I will actually close down the webinar now with respect for people's time.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Minho, Adam, and thank you also for listening out there in Europe, Denmark, wherever you are, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.